in the entire universe. As Russell said, so far as we know, this is true only for man. And that creates a very special responsibility on us, not to waste, not to squander those possibilities, but also, if possible, to improve upon them. Now, Russell was concerned with a nuclear catastrophe that might destroy all life and end in a permanent, what used to be called nuclear winter. He was pleading for the survival of the human species, but not a survival that would preserve our species with all its faults and follies, but a survival that would enable the realization of what he called our better possibilities, our better potentialities. And at the conclusion of this book, this little book, Has Man a Future?, Russell restates his hopes for a future free from the fear of the threat that loomed largest in 1961. And I want to just read you this little passage. Man has not only the corresponding capacities for cruelty and suffering, but also potentialities of greatness and splendor, realized as yet very partially, but showing what life might be in a freer and happier world. If man will allow himself to grow to his full stature, what he may achieve is beyond our present capacity to imagine. Poverty, illness, and loneliness could become rare misfortunes. And with the progress of evolution, what is now the shining genius of an eminent few might become a common possession of the many. All this is possible, indeed probable, in the thousands of centuries that lie before us. Now, Russell might be taken as saying that the survival of humans as we know them has value. But if we look closely at what he said, we see that for him what matters is the preservation and expansion of what is good about humankind. And we too, I believe, should prioritize improving on humans over preserving the species in its present form, if that proves possible. It is doubtful that there was ever a time in which we ape-descended persons were not striving for enhancement, trying to do things better and to make ourselves better people. Shelter, learning and teaching, tool using, body decoration, clothing, gathering and hunting, cooking, storing, cooperation, cultivation, animal taming and domestication, farming, social living, language, education are all enhancement techniques or technologies. With the help of some of these tools, we have built institutions and relationships, families, villages, cities, societies, and civilizations, schools, universities, markets, commercial organizations, mechanisms of cooperation, and of course of competition. We have created literature, art, and music. We have created agriculture and industry, science and medicine, technology and engineering. I want to just concentrate on one enhancement technology, which is familiar, but not really thought of as a technology at all, and that is written language, reading and writing. It is one of the most significant of all enhancement technologies. In addition to providing us with ways of recording speech and setting down ideas, it supplements memory and has indeed made, among many other things, recorded history possible. Writing and everything that goes with it, reading, books, printing, libraries, education, universities, computers, would never have taken off if its incredibly expensive and elitist beginnings had been like the serpent in the egg, killed in the shell. Think how expensive, rare, and elitist were manuscript books, schools, and universities only a very short time ago. When the college in which I studied at Oxford University as a graduate student was founded somewhere around 1263, university education was available to very few. And they were not the elite, actually. They were the clerks of Oxenford. They were the potential priests of that time, not the ruling elite who were Norman or Norman-descended aristocrats. The books the scholars read were in manuscript, and university education for all who could benefit was not even an idea, let alone an ideal. Now, in much of the world, all children have some schooling. And university education is in many countries available for the majority of those who can and who wish to benefit from it. Schools and universities are incredibly expensive institutions, but I hope you will all agree, and of course I would say this, terribly good value. I direct this particularly to the minister and indeed to ministers in my own government who are at the moment contemplating very dramatic cuts in higher education. Despite this, it is not an exaggeration to say that the world aspires to the universal provision of education, despite its rarity and its cost. While this is not achieved, few, or at least not yet achieved, few would say that we should not further invest in education. If there is a lesson here, it is that we should be slow to assume that a good thing is too expensive, rare, or even elitist to be made generally available, and that it therefore does not merit investment. Still less are there reasons to prevent the investment of others in the development of enhancing technologies and procedures. I want to mention one other enhancement technology. Now, I've been concentrating on traditional ones with which we are all familiar, and my last example, my penultimate example, will be also a traditional enhancement technology, because its use draws attention to many of the things that people object to in the more dramatic new enhancement technologies, for example, smart drugs, drugs that improve cognitive performance, and many others. And that is a technology that we are all benefiting from at this moment. We are all, at this moment, bathed in synthetic sunshine. Before synthetic sunshine, our ancestors would go to sleep when it became dark and would work and play when the sun came up. Thanks to synthetic sunshine, firelight, candlelight, lamplight, electric light, we could continue to work and play through the hours of darkness. Those who could do this could steal a march, an unfair advantage on their fellow people, because they could do things in the dark that others could not. And of course, the early origins of synthetic sunshine were expensive. We have a saying in English, perhaps you have it in Greek too, the game is not worth the candle, because candlelight was expensive, and people who played dominoes and cards in the bars and cafes of Elizabethan England and in earlier times sometimes could not afford the candle to illuminate the games they wished to play. And the good games were worth a candle. Now, I think this is a very illuminating, if I may say, insight. And of course, the solution is not to turn our backs on synthetic sunshine, not to say we will not use enhancement technologies until and unless they can be made available to all. The solution is to find cheaper ways of producing them and to ensure as far as we can that access to them is widely distributed. That is the challenge, but not to turn our backs on them. I think I'm being told that I've said enough, and I'm sure that that is right. So although I haven't mentioned in any detail the new enhancement technologies, I think that we should have the same attitude to them as the more familiar ones, that just as we have embraced reading and writing, education, and synthetic sunshine, we, I hope, will have the courage and the foresight to embrace the newer enhancement technologies, perhaps smart drugs, perhaps adjustments to even human nature via the genome that will make us more resistant to disease, more durable, better adapted to face the dangers that undoubtedly beset us now and will continue to do so. Thank you.
As the accidental chairman of this session, thank you very much, John, for a most stimulating talk, which I'm sure will generate lots of questions from the floor and lots of discussions. Certainly, I have a few. I think you also explained why education is at the heart of this symposium. Just one comment. Socrates did not believe in written speech. As a matter of fact, in Socrates' Apology or Apologia, written by Plato, Socrates was defending oral speech and was lambasting written speech as having destroyed the thought process of human beings. On that happy note, I am truly honored to invite Sir Peter Lachman to take the floor. Peter is an Emeritus Professor of Immunology at the University of Cambridge and a Fellow of Christ College, Cambridge. He has been a Secretary of the Royal Society and President of the Royal College of Pathologists. He was also the founder President of the UK Academy of Medical Sciences. Peter has a PhD from Cambridge, and among his other activities, he's a beekeeper. And even though we have not tasted yet the honey that Peter's bees are producing, I'm sure we are going to taste the sting of his thoughts. Having said that, John Salston yesterday said that we are sitting at the shoulders of giants. So I'm presenting to you one of those giants.
Thank you very much. I'm not going to be able to live up to that introduction. I'd like to thank the organizers very much for allowing me to talk on this topic of religion as an evolutionary adaptation, and I will try to persuade you that it actually has some relevance to the subject of this meeting. The proposition that I'm going to make to you, you can read it for yourself, is that although Darwin was worried that evolution by natural selection would be seen as opposed to religion, as it was then and still widely is, particularly among certain groups in the United States, that he was actually mistaken in believing that there was a conflict, and that in fact religions arose to meet a very peculiarly human need, which is that it maintains important aspects of human behavior that vary among groups. And you'll notice I've put that in bold because it's very important we're discussing group behavior here. The behavior that distinguishes humans from monkeys or dogs or worms is quite clearly genetic, and the variation between individual members of a group is very complicated. There are a lot of features there, like intelligence, that are distributed on a normal distribution. It's affected by early life. It's affected by many social factors. But it is here the differences in behavior that defines different groups of human beings. And they require to be kept sufficiently constant over a sufficiently large number of people and a sufficiently large span of time measured in generations that natural selection, working on cultural evolution, which I will explain to you, can act upon them.